Hey guys, we recently made a team tier list, so now it's time to rank individual characters based upon their performance in the 3rd anniversary, which will be version 3.7. There are a lot of characters in this game, so let's keep moving. First I want to start off by showing you the characters that won't even make the list. Those you can see right here. With 37 Eternity Lilia Pickles, Mrs. Bubble, Ezra Centurion, Windsong, Kakania, Jiunenje, Noah, Muldialo, Paradruvis and Igor. Of course here Igor sticks out a little bit. He is the best individual character in this list of characters that won't make it onto the actual tier list. The bummer for him is that he's completely irrelevant. His teammates are complete shit. He is individually not crushing it. He is in his archetype now with Recoleta, receiving her Euphoria update completely outclassed, and Recoleta and her team they are already not crushing it to begin with. So if you are way worse than something that is already not crushing it, yeah, you do not belong onto this list at all. Excuse me, you can't be worse than characters, spoiler alert, that belong to the F tier. So there we go. Bluepaw has a lot of work to do when it comes to improving their characters, because you will see by the way, this tier list it will be radical. We will not make any prisoners and we're gonna be harsh. It is what it is. So back to the initial point, Bluepaw has a lot of work to do when it comes to buffing and characters up. We need so many Euphoria updates, it's out of this world. You will see there are a whole bunch of characters in the F tier. You can already see the amount of characters that won't even make the list. Like, I mean, we better keep moving fast, moving into the future. Not only when it comes to like some content improvements that I will talk about in a future update, but yeah, the characters here, so many of them need help. And we only get 2 Euphoria's updates in the 3rd anniversary. We better get 4 Euphoria updates in the collaboration, guys. Please pray with me. Okay, then I want to talk about characters that are very hard to rank, which is the rank up team and the Star Prompto team. Look, these teams completely lost their spot in the metagame. They are completely irrelevant. In my team tier list I even called the Star Prompto team completely dead. Because where and when, why would you use these teams anymore? Or these characters for that matter. They lost completely their spot in this game. If you want, look, like the reason why you would play these teams in the first place are to deal star afflatus damage with Star Prompto and to deal plant afflatus damage with rank up. But we don't need that anymore. We deal plant afflatus damage with Plant Prompto primarily, and we even have a little bit of a niche there with poison to achieve the exact same goal. So why in the world would you play these rank up characters, right? You wouldn't. Same scenario occurs for the Star Prompto team. We have Liang Yue, Chen Higuang and Flutterpage taking care of that. You don't have these characters, you're gonna use Regulus, right? We are talking about the 3rd anniversary, and there Regulus is one of the best main DPS characters in the game. She is a Star Afflatus, she will take care of dealing the Star Afflatus damage as well. So when are you gonna ever use Star Prompto? Maybe you can say, hey, I don't wanna use Instrument to deal the Star Afflatus damage and I don't have Liang and Cheng. I mean, then alright, maybe, but it's just so niche, so unrealistic to use them. And that's where the problem comes in when I have to rank these characters right now, as individually speaking, and this is an individual character tier list, right? These characters are not like complete garbage or unusable or anything like that. But you know, saying this out loud, these characters are kind of unusable, because What is the reason that you would play these characters? Where would you use them? Why not use something better than them? They are completely outclassed in their archetype, you know what I mean? We have Plant Prompto, who's better, and in their afflatus they are outclassed by Regulus and by the follow-up attack team, you know. So what is the point of like using these characters? There is no point, and that's why I will put all of these characters in the F tier. Not again, emphasis on that, right? Not because they individually necessarily suck or unusable, but they don't have a place in this game. And if you don't have a place in this game, you are kind of unusable, even if you are not complete shit. You know what I mean? I think you get the point, and that's why they are an F tier. Okay, then let's keep moving with low tier characters here. Let's take Mercuria. Let's talk about Mercuria right now real quick. Now, Mercuria is better than the characters in F tier. That is simply because of her flexibility. The characters in F tier are all bound to their respective teams. The only one where you could make an argument is a little bit flexible is Hithabeth. You know, you can play her in rank up and you can slot her in the ultimate archetype team. But yeah, very funny, you know, both of these teams are not crushing it. Her flexibility, quote unquote, is not an argument at all. While for Mercuria, it is, you know, you can play her in Dynamo, you can play her in Plant Prompto, you can play her pretty much everywhere. Wherever you like to slot Mercuria into, you can actually do that, and that gives her a little bit of more viability than the characters in F tier. She is still not higher than D, because you don't want to be a flexible character. You want your teammates, you want your home, you don't want to be lost and just be slotted into every team depending on your current mood or anything, right? You want your fixed spot, and if you don't have that, then you are lackluster. Then let's talk about the ultimate archetype team. It's extremely difficult to rank those as well. Look, I will do it like this. Both Regulator and Melania are in D tier. That is because, yeah, Regulator has more individual prowess than a Melania would have, but these two characters, they belong together. They have to be ranked together. They are not separable. You know what I mean? And yeah, they could be, individually speaking, be even worse than some characters in the F tier, I will give you that, but at least they have more viability. They have their own archetype. You know, they are not outclassed in their archetype, and yeah, in their afflatus, sure, but not in their archetype. That is the reason why they deserve a higher ranking than the characters in the F tier. Because, yeah, I explained everything. And then, yeah, Getian is an absolute catastrophe. You could even go as far and say he shouldn't even make the list in the first place. I would honestly go ahead and actually say that, because you should play another character instead of Getian in this ultimate archetype team. Like, play whoever you want there, but Getian is an absolute catastrophe. He is one of the worst characters in the game when it comes to his role. If you look at the support characters in the metagame, they are outclassing Getian by such an absurd margin. It's ridiculous, you know? So yeah, let's just get rid of Getian and play something else in their spot, like for example Mercuria. Okay, let me get the last three characters out of the way that I actually have a hard time ranking here. This is Corvus, Bromé, and Aniolana. Look, Corvus and Bromé, they have a little bit of a niche, and they are individually quite strong. The problem is that you don't play Dynamo with these characters. You play Dynamo with Lucy. Lucy outclasses these two. And please, just I want to mention that real quick. Don't come me with these completely ridiculous Chinese, whatever you would call them. I think you would call them calculations, in which they play mains bulletin for 10 rounds and then use this as like some kind of argument of how good a character is. like, don't even say this bullshit out anymore. You're gonna get deleted. I'm sick of this crap. It's so brain rot dog shit. Don't come me with it, okay? So with that being out of the way, these characters, yeah, they are individually strong, but they don't have their place, you know? Like, where would you ever play Corvus? It just, a place for her just doesn't exist, excuse me. Unless you are not a completely new player that is like pulling for her with the 103 pulls right now, you don't use Corvus, right? And yeah, if you're a completely new player, then yeah, tier lists are something that you should not really truly look at. They have some value if you use them right, but I mean, yeah, the point stands, right? Corvus, where do you use her? There is no place. You would play Lucy, and you would even play Brume over Corvus. So that's it, right? She's in the same kind of scenario as the other two teams. She does belong to a better archetype, though, I give you that one, but still, she's outclassed in her archetype, and she's outclassed in her afflatus as well. Doesn't make any sense playing this character, excuse me. She has to make it on the list because of her individual prowess, just like every other character in the F tier. Then we have Brume. Now Brume is, individually speaking, better than everything in the D and everything in the F tier. But boy, you know, there comes the problem with building a team around her. Where would you use her? You don't want to use her together with Ulrich. You would then want to play Brume either together with Corvus, who's an F tier, or you would bind Anionala to Brume. That would occupy Sharon, then you cannot play Brume without Sharon, but you want to have Sharon together with Lucy and stuff. So very, very, very niche character is Brume, but individual prowess is high, and she's the best replacement in the game in case you wouldn't have Lucy for some reason, you know? So for that, and she belongs to a very, very good archetype as well, to one of the best archetypes in the game as well. So yeah, she deserves a higher ranking than everything in D and everything in F. That's why I will keep Brume in the C tier. Now Anionala, giga niche, right? Who do you bind Anionala to? It's either Calabauna or Brume. Do you really want to do that? No. As I said, you don't want to lose Sharon because you want Sharon together with Lucy. That's crystal clear. Do you want to bind her with Calabauna to play a follow-up attack team with that? No, you would also occupy not only Fatutu but also Sharon. You know, you can't do that anymore. You play Fatutu together with Chen Higuang and Liang, and you play together Sharon together with Lucy. So what in the world are you gonna do with Anionala? The answer is nothing. Yeah, even the follow-up attack team, you know, I was thinking about, what if you don't have Liang and Cheng? What follow-up attack team will you actually play? You could play this. Yeah, you could play it with Fatutu and Flutterpage and bind Anionala to Calabauna. I think for that reason, I will give the D tier to Anionala, actually. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. You know, at least Anionala has, yeah, this substitute place, which the characters in F tier, they don't. Corvus is not a substitute for Lucy. That would then go to Brume, and yeah, the archetypes and afflatus and everything for the other teams I talked about. Okay, then let's rank 6 Jessica and Spatodea, as yeah, they are kind of interesting topics. We have 6 in Jessica being replacements or fill-ins for the slot of Ramona. If you know, look, you shouldn't commit any Unilogs, any bunnies into the poison archetype team unless you are already committed to poison and you have Willow and Tuesday at P3. If that is not the case, Ramona is an absolute 100% must skip for everyone on the planet. And if you still have them at your disposal though, which is very possible, then you can play this poison team as a just for fun kind of niche thing, and then you can use either Six or Jessica in place of Ramona and have Poison as a just for fun team, right? That nets them actual viability. That viability is not crushing it, that is not good. Like Six, even with his newly established Euphoria, he is still pretty trash. That Euphoria update is pretty bad, unfortunately for him. But I think that's the reason this slot into Poison instead of Ramona, and Ramona being a must skip, is it gives them some viability and some usability, and that's why they are better than everything in the tier, or better than every character that doesn't make the list. So I think F tier is fair, although individually speaking these two are the worst individual characters in our F tier. Okay, then let's talk a little bit about Spatodea. Spatodea is also, this is a character, it's really debatable if she should even make the list. She's so completely trash, but she has a niche, but that niche is also, it's horrifically dogshit, because look, if the only way you would even consider playing Spatodea in the first place is if you want to make use of Lawrence Butterfly, but you don't have Barrel. That is something that you should not do, you know? If you don't have Barrel, you don't play Afterglow. That's it. That's the whole situation there, right? If you don't have Barrel, then you don't have Marsha. It's like, you know, it's a catastrophe with this Spatodea thing. How would you use her? There is no way, you know? Look, even if you're a new player that joined the game after Barrel got released, now you want to play Afterglow though, but you can't get your hands onto Barrel. Yeah, then you don't have Marsha. As a new player, you don't pull for sustain characters that you can't even build a team around. You need main DPS character, and you have bigger fish to fry than Marsha, right? So this Spatodea, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Now her Euphoria update is brand new. She is released in a version where you could play her together with Lawrence and stuff, so it is better than the characters that don't make the list. But I mean, she barely makes the list. This is like an even worse character, not individually speaking, but in terms of viability, than like Jessica and Six. And I mean, that says a lot. And that's why, like, I even have a hard time putting her into F tier, as you can probably tell, but I think it's fair. Okay, from now on it becomes easier and more clear how to rank the characters here, so we can speed things up a little bit. Calabauna only has this follow-up niche in case you want to bind her to Onion Lala and play the follow-up attack team to give Flutterpage and Fatuto a home in case you don't have Liang and Cheng. Then A-Knight, that ranking I will leave up to yourself. Should A-Knight actually make the list in F tier, or should he not? The only viable thing viable quote-unquote thing he has in this game is speedrunning easy content. Now the problem is, right, this would net him the F tier, because there is a little tiny niche that he has and he is usable. But is anyone in the world actually doing this? I'm curious. Tell me in the comment section down below if anyone, do you do this? Do you know anyone who does that? Does anyone out there actually use A-Knight to speedrun the Lucidscape or anything? I would be interested, because from my perspective, I don't see anyone do this, and no one talks about it. I don't do it myself. I speedrun this with Lucy, and I let even Bloodtide play this out on autoplay instead of using A-Knight. So, right, I don't think the niche that A-Knight has in this game is actually fulfilled by anyone. I wouldn't put him on this list, right? I said we don't cut slack, we don't make prisoners, so A-Knight is out, because the niche, I think no one is actually using that. If anyone out there actually uses the niche for A-Knight, let me know in the comment section down below, and then in my next tier list I will put them into the F tier again. But for now, I don't think anyone is actually doing that. Then we have Medicine Pocket, who is played in the best team in the entire game, which is Bloodtide, and He is not the best in slot there, that is Robushka now. Robushka is not used in the ultimate archetype team anymore. It would be a waste to put at her because the team is trash. So we move Robushka back into the Blood Tide team, and therefore Medicine Pocket is out. Now Medicine Pocket is a very, very still viable piece. He's not bad. He is still a very good budget option in case you would not have invested into Robushka, can't get your hands onto Robushka. Robushka is too expensive, and then you have Medicine Pocket on the Euphoria banner in the 3rd anniversary, and this is a needed piece to make the Blood Tide team ready, right, to get the Blood Tide team ready, to establish it, and that's the highest priority for everyone and their mom in the 3rd anniversary. So there we go. Individually, Medicine Pocket not completely crushing it anymore, doesn't have a best in slot, but is a budget version for the best team in the game, and that deserves respect. Moving into ranking the poison lineup, that is quite easily. So what holds this team back is their sustain slot. They don't have a viable sustain. Sotheby is not individually good anymore. That would net her the F tier. Now, yeah, it's individual prowess, right? She makes this list because she has this spot in the poison team. She is the signature support, or sustain I should say, in the poison lineup. The poison lineup has a good niche, it's viable, so Sotheby has to be on this list, but F tier because she's the reason, that is the spot that holds the team back. Then we have with Ramona, and should I put them into C or into D? I will put them into C for now. We might adjust that ranking later down the line. Both Willow and Ramona deserve the C tier, while Tuesday deserves the B tier. Tuesday always has to be higher than anybody else in her team, because without Tuesday the whole poison crew wouldn't exist. I think everyone is aware of that at this point. So Tuesday is by far the most valuable piece in this poison lineup, and therefore she has to be ranked higher than anyone else in his team. And that's exactly what you can see here on your screen. Then we have the afterglow lineup, which, yeah, Beryl. Yeah, let's start off with Isolde. Isolde is the weakest piece of the puzzle in there. She might even be considered an F tier. I will only put her in D tier and not an F, because she is part of this cracked afterglow lineup. That's the only reason. But individually speaking, Isolde is pretty weak. Then we have Beryl, who is of course, yeah, a more valuable piece and individually way better than Isolde. So I will give Beryl the B tier. You could actually move her into C, but yeah, since she is the main DPS of the afterglow lineup, to me she has more value than anything would have in the C tier. Then Lawrence Butterfly and Marsha, they can both stay in the A tier. Marsha is one of the best sustain characters in the game, and Lawrence is one of the best support characters in this game. I would even say that there's only one support character in the game currently. Yeah, I mean two. So Lawrence would take 3rd place when it comes to ranking only support kind of characters, which we could also do. That's actually not too bad of an idea, to rank characters based on how they perform in the individual roles. I would think about, let me know in the comments if you would like to see such a video. So yeah, the kind of powerhouse characters here with Marsha and Lawrence, they both belong into the A tier. I think no one would complain about that. Okay, before we move into the instrument archetype, this one right here, let's first of all talk about Via real quick and get her out of the way. Also very, very tough to rank. It is individually a quite good, decent character. She is outclassed by a lot of other sustain characters in the game at this point. Where do you play her, right? Like, at the moment she doesn't really have a place in this game. You play her in rank up, you know, where else would you play her? You could play her with Bromé and Corvus, Would you really want to do that when Enigma exists in this game? I don't really think so either, and that team is also kinda niche to begin with, so yeah, problem. She is maybe future-proof, we don't know that yet, because when Noir receives her Euphoria update, Noir will be played together with Beth, and these two deal mental damage, so you could use Via there. But we don't know what about this Noir Euphoria, when is it gonna be, how good is it gonna be, so rough, you know. I will still give the D tier to Via, because to me she is the most valuable piece in the rank up team. I think she has to be therefore a rank higher than like Marcus and Aris and stuff. I rate her individual prowess a little bit higher. I think this is a little bit of a more valuable characters than everything in the F tier. But you could easily put her into the F tier. I wouldn't complain about that. For me, I will put her into the D tier. Okay. Then we have this instrument archetype here. We will first rank Regulus and Coppelia. I want to save Rihanna for the very end. Let's start off with Regulus. That's the easy call. That's an absolute S tier. She is either the second best main DPS character in the entire game or the third best. It depends on if Lucy actually gets a Euphoria update number 2 or not. But regardless, Regulus definitely deserves the S tier, no matter what. She is the core part of the brand new instrument archetype, which will be crushing it future-proof. She outperforms almost every single character in the game in her role and in her afflatus. She's an absolute beast. Now Coppelia, that is a little bit tougher to rank. This is the support of the instrument archetype. This is gonna be a free character. The free character or not doesn't matter. Look at Ulrich, you know. But wow, how good exactly Coppelia will be is hard to tell. Will she be on the level of a Lawrence Butterfly? That is, I can't tell. Like Coppelia is either A or B. Just to be safe, I will put her into the B tier for the time being. For Coppelia, I would have to see a little bit more of her in action together. Yeah, I will have to look at a little bit more footage concerning Coppelia to like truly grasp if she's A or B. I'm not too sure yet, so just to be sure, I will put her in B tier for now, in B tier. It's planned prompto time. Okay, let's start off with An Lee. An Lee falls into the exact same category as Isolde. These characters are individually not crushing it, that is pretty obvious. But they are very important pieces of an extremely good team, top tier team. That's why they are not F tier, but D tier. They are also, they are irreplaceable. You know, you cannot remove An Lee from Plan Prompto, and you cannot remove Isolde from Afterglow. And for that reason, they have to deserve at least more respect than F tier. I mean, come on, right? I think we do agree on that. Then let's move on to Tooth Fairy. She will stay in the B tier. Yeah, I think the B tier for Tooth Fairy is a perfectly fine spot to be in, you know. Viable, very good sustain character, sustains the Plan Prompto team alone, right? I will point this out whenever we talk about Tooth Fairy. I will always say that, so get ready. And yeah, just fine, you know, she doesn't stand out as particularly awesome, or there's nothing truly special about her, but she's a solid sustain character in a very good team. So B tier is the perfect place for her. Then Skipperina is the exact same character as Marsha, just for a better archetype. Marsha is individually a little bit better than Kiparina, but Kiparina is part of the better team. So that's why these two cuties, they deserve the exact same rank. They are both top tier sustained characters in this game, so A tier is the perfect place. Paper Heron. In my previous tier list that I made about version 3.6, and we didn't have the full information as when it comes to Regulus specifically, I put Paper Heron into the S tier. Now that we know how freaking good Regulus will be, Paper Heron has to move a tier down. You know, look, I cannot justify putting Paper Heron into the same tier as a Regulus or a Nautica. That would not be fair. So I'm sorry, Paper Heron, but you move one rank down into the A tier. Okay guys, hang in there, we're almost done. Okay, Liang Yue, we have the follow-up attack team now. Liang Yue, on the same rank as Nautica and Regulus? Nah, falls into the same category kind of as Paper Heron. Individually speaking, Liang is better than Paper Heron, but it's not enough to justify to put her into S tier anymore. Regulus is just removing these two characters out of the S tier. I am very, very sorry about that, but it is what it is, you know. Liang, like, yeah, she is one of the better main DPS, one of the best main DPS characters in the game, but you know, with Regulus joining the fray, and there is still a little bit of uncertainty about this Lucy Euphoria number 2. If you wanted to, right? Sure, you could say Liang Yue is currently S tier, but it's rough. We could put her in here and then like move her out when Lucy receives Euphoria number 2, right? Like, look, if Lucy Euphoria number 2 is not happening, move Liang Yue up into the S tier. I'm so certain this Lucy Euphoria number 2 will happen, and then we have to move Liang out of there. So yeah, do with that whatever you will. Then we have Chen Higuang. This is also a character that is not easy to rank. I will go, because he's so very, very specific in what he does, and he only does work together with Liang Yue. I will go by the logic of ranking Chen Higuang and say he rises and falls, which is true, with Liang Yue. So he will always be a rank below Liang Yue. If Liang Yue is an A tier, Chen is a B tier. That's as simple as it is. If Liang is an S tier, Chen Higuang is an A tier. You know, that's how it goes. He is so strictly bound to Liang that, yeah, he will always be under Liang, in Liang's shadow, if you want to say it like that. That, I think, is perfect. Now we have Fatutu and Flutterpage though. For Fatutu, it's obvious and crystal clear that is the best sustain in the game, that deserves S tier. Flutterpage though, on the same level as a Lawrence Butterfly, yeah, I think that still holds true right now. Yeah, considering the team that she is played in, considering the home that she has, with this follow-up attack team that she is a core part of, being like the 3rd or 4th best team in the entire game, I think Flutterpage does deserve the A tier actually, so that's where I will put her. Okay, then what about Dynamo? Lucy A tier. If she receives her Euphoria, S tier, but for the time being A tier. Ulrich has to be a rank lower than Lucy, so B tier is just fine. Sharon, best support character in the entire game. Yeah, second best support character in the entire game. We need to say that nowadays. It feels a little bit strange, but it is what it is. Sharon S tier character, that he defines the archetype Dynamo. Dynamo is the second best archetype in the game. I mean, enough said. Then Enigma is actually better than Skipperina and Marsha individually, and he belongs to the better archetype than both of them. That's an S tier juicer, must pull, don't skip no matter what, remember that. Let's rank the rest of the Blood Tide team. Let's start off with Semmelweis. Semmelweis is I think I would even go as far and say she is still the best sub DPS character in the entire game. Now, with the uncertainty of Lucy's Euphoria number 2, Ulrich also loses a little bit of viability, but Semmelweis doesn't, you know. If you are bound to Nautica, you are doing really, really well in this game, and Semmelweis is exactly that. I can't think of a better sub DPS than Semmelweis in this game. Honestly, like, who would it be? I don't know, you tell me. Semmelweis is just the best sub DPS, actually. It's crazy how that works. Power creep, right? We talked about that in my previous video. Then we have Robushka. Yeah, she's on the same level as Kiparina and Marsha. She might be individually a little bit worse than the two, but she belongs to the best team in the entire game and she has the best in slot there. I mean, is there anything to argue with? I don't think so at all. Now, Sentinel is a very interesting story, because in the 3rd anniversary, Sentinel falls off of a cliff. I will give her the C tier, actually, because this is actually the character that is 100% bound to be replaced by Rihanna. Be it in the 3rd anniversary or soon after. That depends a little bit on the state of your account and how much you like the instrument archetype, yada yada yada. But Rihanna is going to be played in Bloodtide. That's going to be her best in slot there. Even if we play her initially in the instrument archetype team, that remains to be seen, depending on what Euphoria updates we get in the collaboration. Gotta be 4, please. So yeah, there are a lot of open questions. What we can factually say, Sentinel is gonna be replaced in the near future, maybe right in the 3rd anniversary. So she is no future proof anymore. She's gonna get replaced, and that makes her fall off of a cliff. So that's as easy as that. Then we have Rihanna, of course. That is a D tier character. You don't want to be a slottable character in this game. I'm kidding, that's obviously S tier. Her new mechanic of granting us an additional turn every now and then, even on turn 2 with P2, we on turn 2 already get an additional turn. That is giga broken, game changing, you know what I mean? She is the best in slot character in the best team in the entire game. She is the best support character in the game. She's even better than characters like Sharon and Flutterpage and Lawrence, you know. I mean, yikes, that is an S tier for sure, no question about it. I think no one will argue with that. And there we go. We have Mrs. Stranger. That is not impossible to rank. Otherwise, I would wait before I make this tier list if Mrs. Stranger would be completely impossible to rank. Like, she's guaranteed not an S tier. Then I can guarantee you. All signs points towards she will be mediocre. To like truly grasp how good she will be, we will need to see if she even will have a best in slot in any team, and then what team will that be. She will not be played in Bloodtide, she will not be played in Dynamo, and follow up maybe because of Chen Higuang. She has very, very great synergy with Chen Higuang. That is a maybe. But look, would you seriously replace Flutterpage with Mrs. Stranger? Hell no. So what spot would Mrs. Stranger then actually fill? You play her instead of Liang Yue? You gotta be kidding, you know? So follow-up is also kind of completely out of the picture. Would you play her in Plan Prompto? No. Who do you, like you know, what are we gonna do with this character? I don't see anything, really. Like, I cannot come up with a spot for this character. I will have to rank her really low. I will rank her even below Poison, honestly. Well, below Willow, below Ramona. I don't think this character will be great. Now, of course, right? We need to see and we need to wait for her portrays. In the portraits there might be some crazy juice in there, but honestly I don't think so. I think here we have a similar situation onto our hands as it was in the second anniversary with Muldia. I don't think Mrs. Stranger is gonna crush it. But this ranking might change a little bit depending on, yeah, wherever she would go, right? Slight possibilities are there, of course, right? We never should rule anything out. I don't see it though. So that's it for the tier list, guys. I hope that was fun and informative. If you like Reverse 1999 content in general, please consider leaving a follow on my channel. I would really appreciate it. But until next time, take care of yourselves, have a great day, and we love this game.